Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to talk about social environment and depannya. Hello and welcome to our English class. Our article review titles quantifying language creole continuum and its correlation with cognitive factor and understanding Malaysian English or English jargon in social media. So for the first, we are going to start this introduction to Lingua Franca, which is the article entitled Quantifying English Creole Continuum and its correlation with cumulative factor. To understand this in better terms, nations who are living in a multicultural and multi-ethnicity nation are influenced by other dialects and languages as well. This actually leads to use of Manglish Creole, which was defined as the acrolect, which is the highest and most prestigious variety of a continuum. As we know, acrolect has proper grammar and can be understood globally. Even if we speak with a Malaysian accent without pathetic imitations of American slang, you hear. What's more is that idioms, proverbs, and phrases are also often translated directly from Malay, Chinese, and Tamil to English. And although the Malaysian English is sometimes referred to as Rojak or Bahasa Rojak, it varies from Rojak in that English is used as the basis language. Therefore, Malaysian English helps the speakers to switch from a variety to another in different situations for different functions and purpose. For the next part, I will pass to Muhammad Danish Iqbal bin Zubion.
Thank you, Mama Izzuddin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will now do my part of the introduction of Lingua Franca. The title of the research article of is Understanding Malaysian English or Manglish Jargon in Social Media. It is known that a lot of Malaysians like to mix the language that they use in real life, and this has led the behavior to be normalized in social media. The mass media technology has evolved and increasingly affected how people communicate, which frequently uses informal language. So to start off, Manglish is being used by Malaysian people who grew up surrounded by Malay language and is fluent with the English language as well, or vice versa, causing the language to have a mix-up, thus creating Manglish. The social media platform is an excellent place to use the language as there is no teachers to correct our pronunciation, etc. So the people who know this language exercise their knowledge here, thus creating a jargon for social media for the English language. So now, I will pass back the presentation for the summary to Mama Izzuddin.
Thank you. And for the summary part, first, Malaysians do use a lot of other dialects or languages, including Hokkien, Cantonese, Malay, and Tamil. Second, Baskaran in 1994 stated that for educational and professional reasons, acrolectal Malaysian English is nearly identical to the British, American, and Australian Englishes, minus the accent. And third, Manglish is a colloquial variety of Malaysian English that has characteristics with an English-based Creole and is mostly spoken in Malaysia. For the next summary, I will pass back to Muhammad Dan Iqbal.
Thank you, Muhammad Izzuddin. For my part, according to Suruhanjaya Reports Sinar Harian Komunikasi dan Multimedia (SKMM), in 2015 only, media users in Malaysia have at least 4 different social accounts and at least 2 hours a day on social media. And according to the website Internet World Statistics, Malaysia has about 19 million people between all of these platforms in only 2015. And all of these online platforms are revolutionizing the way we communicate, from keep it up, Cuban, to Malays. The words we use in everyday conversation affect our language. Next, language has evolved with the development of technology. But even though people say it is evolving, but some people have their own opinions by saying that English only English only belongs with English and Malay only belongs in Malay. But if we see it in a linguist's point, we could see that the person who uses this mix of language is actually very smart because he knows that he is a monolinguist, but he also knows a bit of knowledge the of a second language, which is the language that he is trying to talk about for another person which only speaks the language that he has little knowledge on. So for him to send out his point to the person, he uses Manglish so that at least the person that knows in this sense English, if he or she only knows English, at least by using Manglish, he or she can get a gist of what he is trying to say. So then, that is because our written language is now used on computers, tablets, and smartphones. So, like I said before, the the development of technology has revolutionized the the reason for our language evolving. And when communicating with each other, we tend to be informal and adaptable. This may cause some of the people that who sometimes when they are going to an interview or they are uh, or maybe they are students, they are trying to make an essay. So since the Manglish language or Creole, if we use the formal term, isn't actually formalized or hasn't been recognized in Malaysia, so people people are saying that it is a made up language. It shouldn't be used in exams where or when we are going to formal events. But if we look back in history, Malay itself is a combination of a made up of other languages. So Malay is actually a made up language, which is first used for business purposes, and after it has been passed down to generation, it has become the national language of Malaysia. Therefore, a combination of informal face-to-face communication and crowds audiences enabled by social media have created new ways of communicating new words introduced with a spelling change. This means that if you can balance out um, when you are in a formal event, you can use a formal language or a language that is recognized by the people in Malaysia. But when you are online, you can be creative. You can use the Manglish Creole to help people understand what you are talking about. Okay, next I pass back to Muhammad Izzuddin.
Uh, Thank you. And if we are going to our with our review and analysis, our first questions is why was the Manglish Creole created? The Creole was created in social media so that those who are monolinguists can communicate with each other easily, and also so that Malaysians wanted to make some phrases or words simpler and shorter. That might helps them in communicating in a better way. For the second questions, how did the Manglish take place in society?
So, Manglish took place in society where a monolingual person wants to communicate with another monolingual person but only understands little of each other's language. Like I said, um, if as little as possible, if they know as little knowledge, then they can only describe what they are trying to say. And by using the Manglish Creole, they can send out their point, even though they don't really know what the language that they are talking with. In other words, Manglish Creole has been used after Malaysians were mixed with the introduction of foreign languages, and this foreign language is English. The next question: what does Manglish stand for? So Manglish stand for Malaysian English, in which Malaysians who use social media platforms communicate with each other whilst only having little knowledge of either English or Malay. So next, I will be talking about we will be talking about compare and contrast. So for my part, which is the understanding Malaysian English jargon in social media, the strength of Manglish is it we can communicate easily even though we don't have to say the exact word for its meaning, and it simplifies complicated words to convey the information. For instance, we use shut up, but in English it is called shut up, and when in Manglish it is combined into one word and the phrase becomes more simple. The next one is its weakness. The weakness is it is hard to understand when the words are taken out of context of the sentences. So when a person he is talking with another person, and if there is another person, a third person that want to join, and if they keep talking with the Manglish Creole, then most probably the third person won't even understand, and the first person would have to go out of his way to translate what they are talking about. And lastly is the notable features. The notable features of this research article is the author's way of writing makes it interesting to continue reading his research. So now I will pass on to Muhammad Izzuddin.
Thank you. So, as for the quantifying Manglish Creole continuum and its correlation with familiarity factor, as for the strength, the Manglish helps facilitate communication in various situations, as the dialectal Manglish or Malaysian English is used informally and nationally intelligible. This means that it is easily understood by locals and saves time as it is much simpler than official language. So for the weakness, it is not much suitable to be used in formality as it is not an official language. It cannot be written in formal essay or for any formal occasion. And the last part, notable features, is the authors wrote the article in detail and much easy to understand by many people. The explanation in the article is well organized from the main point to other major points. So for the next part, we'll pass back to Danish.
Thank you, Muhammad Izzuddin. And now we have reached the end of our presentation. So I will now conclude with the conclusion. To sum it up, there are lots of benefits and also downsides of using the English Creole. We must always be aware of how we use our ways to communicate, since there are times when we have to be professional with the person we are communicating with. We must also try to learn the language in which we intend to use, as it makes it easier for others to understand us. So, in a sense, even though Manglish is created to simplify our lives, it is to make it easier for others to understand. But if we just took a bit of our time to learn the English language, then it will make the person who only understand English um, to understand what our point is at that time easier. And even though we use the English language for only for that point in time, if we learn, the the knowledge will stay with us. It will be kept in our brain, in our heart. So when we are trying to communicate elsewhere or at other times, we already know how to use the English language. Furthermore, learning how Manglish affects us in our daily life may help us understand better the way Malaysians communicate with each other. So when we are learning Manglish, we understand that the Malaysian people likes to simplify words so that others won't need to take the won't need to go out of their way to have a dictionary, or in these modern times they have to record their voice in Google Translate, which is sometimes very inaccurate. So finally, we could promote to foreigners how we as Malaysians communicate with much respect and show how nice and polite our people are. So, in this sense, when we go out of our way or we try to not be, people say, pain in the neck for others, and we create a new language so that others can understand us better, shows just not how nice and polite Malaysian people are. So that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.